Holy shit, it's actually happening. Maybe. So a report came out either last night or this morning, I don't really know, that it is highly possible that Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down as president of Lucasfilm. About 5 years too late, if you ask me. So, I do have to disclose that this is not confirmed. This is just a rumor, but this is a rumor that is spreading like wildfire, and it seems like the way it's coming out, it seems like this is actually very possible. Especially from Star Wars just being in the tank for the past, well, 5 or 6 years at this point. You all know how much I hate Disney Star Wars. There are so few things that have come out of Star Wars since 2012, when the franchise was sold to Disney, that I've actually enjoyed. Now, there's not nothing that I've enjoyed, but it's been very few and far between, and I don't think there's been anything that I've liked in almost 7 years at this point. Because let's go over the few things of Disney Star Wars that I like. I really like Rebels. I started watching that when it premiered back in 2014. I was 11 when that came out, so I was probably going to like it whether it's actually bad or not, but I do still like it to this day. Rogue One is decent. It's not great, but it's decent. Solo, I actually very, very much enjoy. That one's actually one of my favorite Star Wars films. I know people like to make fun of Solo because it's an easy target, but I really enjoy the film. And Force Awakens, it's not good. It's not a good movie, but kind of like Attack of the Clones, it's bad, but it doesn't hurt me to watch it, unlike Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker. Has there been anything since? The live-action shows have all been garbage, though. Mandalorian, first 2 seasons are passable. I'd say season 1 was probably the best one because it was, at the time, it was a smaller story that didn't have to try to relate to all these other shows to build this garbage cinematic universe that went down the toilet with shows like Ahsoka, and now with that Mandalorian and Grogu movie that comes out next year, that'll surely flop at the box office, but I'm getting off track. Pretty much everything that has come out of Disney Star Wars has been terrible. The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker, doesn't help they didn't have a plan for that sequel trilogy, but that's been talked about enough. But it doesn't help the fact when Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker sucked. I could have forgiven them for not really having a plan for where they were going if the movies had been good, but they weren't. All the live-action shows are terrible. Obi-Wan Kenobi was the breaking point for me, which a lot of you probably know at this point. But Mandalorian Season 3 was atrocious. Ahsoka was atrocious. Bad Batch started out fine, but got worse as it went along, and apparently got worse. I stopped watching after the beginning of Season 2, but I've heard even though I've seen all the shills defend Season 3, I've seen more reliable sources say Season 3 was really bad. The Acolyte is one of the worst things ever put on television. I still haven't watched Skeleton Crew or Andor. I've heard people tell me Andor is good, but I really don't care. Why? Because it's a show about Cassian Andor. Enough said. I don't care if it's good, I'm not watching it. And I'm not watching Skeleton Crew either, because, again, reliable sources tell me that show is shit. But this, right here, is the best news we've gotten, is the best Star Wars news we've gotten since the Acolyte's cancellation back in, what was that, September? The show debuted in June and was canceled, like, weeks after the finale, so it had to have been, like, September when it was canceled, something like that. So this is the best news we've gotten out of Star Wars since the Acolyte's cancellation, which in turn was the best news we'd gotten out of Star Wars since, I don't know. But let's look at this logically, though. We all know that Kathleen Kennedy is the main problem behind Star Wars and the rest of Lucasfilm's properties as well, like the absolutely terrible Willow show that was so bad it was taken off of Disney Plus, which basically means it no longer exists. then Indiana Jones and the Dial of Disaster, and then those are only the ones that come to mind. I was gonna say something else, but those are the only ones that come to mind at this point. So yeah, she is the main catalyst behind these movies and shows and some of the video games and everything sucking ass. But how much is this actually going to fix? Because I'm going to say this straight up. If they promote Dave Filoni to be president of Lucasfilm, I'm never watching anything they put out again. I know everybody likes to say Dave Filoni is the big savior of Star Wars, and no, he's not. Again, Ahsoka sucked. The Mandalorian Season 3 sucked. That Mandalorian Grogu movie is going to suck, and his animated shows, haven't been that great since Rebels. Resistance, I don't even know if he was part of that show, but that show sucked. Bad Batch hasn't been very good, and he likes to just stomp all over other people's work within the Star Wars canon. Not just the original expanded universe, but the Disney canon as well. Because he doesn't like to be put in a box with his stories. Well, then he shouldn't be involved in this multi-platform or multimedia universe if he can't handle adhering to the canon. Ugh. But you know they're gonna put somebody like Filoni, or maybe even Jon Favreau in there. I'd rather than put Favreau than Filoni in there, to be perfectly honest. But they're gonna promote somebody who's not going to fix the problem. And again, just because you change the person at the top of the problem doesn't mean you're gonna fix everything beneath it. All these creatives, like it doesn't help with Leslie Headland when she was running the Acolyte. You could have voted out Kathleen Kennedy while that show was in production. It wasn't gonna fix it unless you also fired Leslie Headland, which, to be fair, anybody else hired onto the job probably would have done. Because, well, for more reasons than just incompetence. You know what I mean. If you know, you know. So, but again, like, this is great. This is great news if this source is actually real, if she is actually stepping down. The problem is I don't know how much this is going to fix. I don't know if this will be a better fix for the short term or the long term, or maybe it won't fix anything. Like, we've seen what happens with movie companies or even other places like sports sports franchises. Just because you make one change, even if it is a pretty big change in fixing one of the biggest problems you have, it probably won't fix the entire problem or the whole list of problems in this case. We've seen this happen before, and for all we know, it could get worse. How can it get worse than Kathleen Kennedy? I don't know, but you know Disney will find a way. So that's all I got for this, and I will see you all next time. Bye.